February 17, 2020, Susanna J. Dodgson, in the graveyard of St. Giles Church in Oxford, England. To my right is the Department of Statistics. Close by to the left is the Ashmolean Museum, which is, I guess, that way. This is St. Giles Road, where the Quaker Meeting House is a little further down, on the same block as the Ashmolean. The Ashmolean is just an enormous museum, and out the front it says it has 1 million years, half a million years of human history, which is pretty impressive. What's interesting is it's the 17th. We arrived on the 15th, and we were really surprised to see daffodils. Daffodils usually come in after the crocuses, and the crocuses come in after the snowdrops. This graveyard has all of them. Snowdrops. I did see some purple crocuses somewhere. So what am I doing in Oxford? Well, I'm on a trail of 3 Oxford graduates who were brothers. There we are, there's a crocus. The oldest brother was Charles Heathfield Dodgson, 1853. He was my great-grandfather. He never could figure out what he wanted to do. He came to Oxford, decided to hell with Oxford, got a commission in the army, decided to hell with the army, became a barrister. In between that, he also went to India and became a mason. I know this from records. So he went to India to do whatever you do on a tea farm, came back to England, got turned into a barrister, didn't like that much, found a rich heir to be a fortune in Australia, Caroline Maud Tooth, married her, dragged her off to Darjeeling, produced 2 sons, one of whom was my grandfather, and the other of whom I am trying to find as well. His name was Reginald Charles Frederick Dodgson. And why he's interesting is I have no idea anything about him. I was told he was a graduate of Christ Church, which is possible, but I have a reader's card at the Bodleian Library, and you know what? This is English Rain. I do know he was recruited by MI5, or is it MI6? It's the international one. One is the CIA equivalent and one is the FBI equivalent. He was recruited by the CIA equivalent, which I believe was MI5, but it might have been MI6. I will check that. And he died in Vienna in 1962. So between getting recruited as a spy and dying in Vienna, I have no idea what he got up to. And I'm here to find out. However, his 2 uncles and his father, Campbell Dodgson, lived to a fine age. His college was New College, and he went from New College to the British Museum, and he stayed at the British Museum until he retired in 1932, and in 1933 was given a Goethe medal pinned to his chest by von Hindenburg, just before von Hindenburg died. If you know any history about what was going on in Germany, in Berlin in 1932, in 1933. That's pretty incredible. I know this because it was in the Times of London. It was completely removed from his obituary and his biography. I think he didn't want anyone to know that he was awarded a Goethe medal, but I think that's what spies do. He had a terrific job. He was as curator of arts and prints in the British Museum. He held a lot of soirees in his house. There is a story that Vincent Price wanted to be an art historian, and he showed up in London, and his contact for art history was Campbell, and Campbell convinced him that he should be an actor, something like that. But anyway, I have written quite a bit about Campbell, and I'm writing more. I mean, I just think he was absolutely fascinating, and he clearly had a lot of friends. People loved him. Now, we must remember that when he was alive, between 1867 and 1948, being homosexual was a crime in England, and he clearly was. I mean, love poems were published to him. He spent a holiday with Oscar Wilde and Lord Bosie, with stories that, well, anyway, he was, no question, but also a very loving, very supportive man. He married a daughter of the chancellor, or whatever you call it, the director of New College, whose name was Peter Spooner, who invented Spoonerisms. That's kind of cute. So, but Catherine Spooner, Frances Catherine Spooner, who became Catherine Dodgson, was an artist as well, and he championed her, although not as much as he should have. There was a German Jewish artist that he was very interested in helping, and did, Cathay Kollwitz. He's the one that discovered Sir Muirhead Bone. So I'm just here, I just want to find his papers. I found that he left an enormous bequest to the Ashmolean Museum, and he also has apparently left some prints there, and I hope I'll be able to look at those tomorrow. They died without any children. He died pretty wealthy. I guess he was very good at investing or something. I mean, he was the son of a stockbroker. He certainly did better than any of his other 7 siblings. But when he died, he left his cash and his papers and his considerable art collection to the British Museum. I have written to the British Museum, but they have not replied. So I'd like to actually write to MI5 or MI6, whichever one it is, and find out more about what he did as a spy. But I believe that when you're a spy, it's never ever revealed, and that's a good thing. I don't need to know anything I don't need to know. But he was awarded a CBE in 1919, and he was also made a Legionnaire of Honor, something like that, by the highest award from Belgium and from France, because of what he did during the First World War. So it's not really clear what he did. He certainly spoke French and German fluently, and he was always in France and Germany, and he had the most amazing job buying artwork for the British public. I mean, how do you get that job? So of course, when you've got lots of British cash and you're looking for nice stuff all around the world, what a perfect disguise for a spy. And I think he was very bright. I'm sure this accepting the Goethe medal was just to find out what was going on in Germany. And I understand he was absolutely horrified, as we all are. All these years later, 80 years later, 85 years later, we're still horrified of what was going on in Germany in 1938. My other relative is Edward Spencer Dodgson. Now, he was 10 years older than Campbell. Campbell was the youngest of 8. Edward was the 4th child, born in 1857. And he went to Jesus College, and he rapidly became an incredible linguist. He never came across a language he didn't like and learn immediately. He even showed up in New Zealand. And I believe he was also translating some Maori languages. He certainly was very familiar with Hungarian, Italian, of course, he spoke Italian. Latin, Greek, Italian, French, German. That's a given. Hungarian, now Basque. Basque was very interesting. And he may have been the single person who most brought the Basque back from extinction. He was also fluent in Celtic, and he translated a Bible into Celtic. He translated a lot of Bibles into a lot of different languages, which is interesting because he was clearly not interested in religion. He translated a very interesting series of papers early on. Very cynical understanding of how Christianity got a foothold in Rome. It was quite simple. The pagan chiefs and kings had property and the Romans wanted it. So they just, when one fell swoop, made sure everyone had to be Christian, and if you weren't Christian, you had your properties confiscated. You see, Henry VIII wasn't original. He didn't think of that by himself. That had been done before. So here we are, crocuses. See, that rain shower was very short. Look at that. Crocuses, snowdrops, and daffodils all at once. So this is looking down St. Giles Road. Their meeting for worship was just lovely on Sunday. We're Quakers. We have our service by not saying anything for an hour. None of this singing, but it was occasionally someone will say something inspirational, which is really nice. Look at these gorgeous crocuses. Wow. I've never seen crocuses and daffodils at the same time. This place is really confused. Now, I don't know where Edward was buried. I believe, I know that Campbell was, his funeral service was held at New College. So I don't know if New College has a graveyard. But I have not been able to find a probate notice for Edward, so I do know he died in 1922. I have seen the death certificate, but I don't know, he might have died from flu. Alright, well, here I am on the trail of my 2 great-great-uncles, Edward and Campbell, and my great-uncle Rex, Susanna J. Dodgson. February 17, 2020. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at the blossoms. How do they have spring so early here?